When I first started to learn about manifestation, I was very fixated on the external part of the process. I wanted to understand the universe, vibration, and frequency, how those all work together to bring manifestations to fruition. Did I need to journal? How about affirmations? How is visualization? How do I do it? For how long? I was very focused on the external process. So at that time, I was not aware that there's a very, very important internal process. It's a concept that was underneath the external practices. And this concept is so important because it influences who you are and what decisions you make on a daily basis. The concept I'm speaking of is your self concept. Your self concept is a collection of your beliefs, your memories, your assumptions, and how you perceive yourself. So it's truly the answer to the underlying question, who am I? It is running in your head every single day, and it shows externally by your behaviors, your decisions, how you perceive the world, and what you allow into your life every single day. So it really is how you perceive yourself, what you believe about yourself. This is so important in the manifestation process because what you believe about yourself is also going to allow you to understand what you're doing wrong in the manifestation process. Can I manifest? What do I need to change? And what framework do I need to change to allow these things to enter my energy space? Your internal model of yourself influences how you perceive the world, how you behave with it, and what you experience in your life. So I believe this is so important, and it's also a missing piece to the manifestation process. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you about your self-concept and how you can change this framework to ultimately manifest everything you absolutely desire. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Rory, spiritual coach and a manifestation mentor. So let's break down what exactly is your self-concept, where it comes from, and why changing it may be exactly what you need to live a more fulfilling life. So first, I want to start by saying this. Your self-esteem is not the same as your self-concept. Your self-esteem feels more like, how do I feel about the things I value? And your self-concept is, who do I believe I am? So for example, if somebody was going to describe their self-concept, they may say, I am independent, responsible, I'm helpful, I'm financially secure, I'm anxious, I'm cautious, I'm here to help other people. Something here to understand is these descriptions are most likely coming from repeated behaviors, past experiences, influenced from other people, or limiting beliefs that your subconscious mind has stored in you since childhood. Something major to understand, and write this down. Your self-concept is learned. It is developed over time through past experiences. So we are often receiving feedback. We're receiving feedback from friends, teachers, family, social media, our environment. And what happens here is that we are also receiving acceptance and rejections. We are receiving success and failures, and praises and criticisms. And as you move through life, your brain begins to organize these experiences and create patterns. So eventually what happens is, instead of thinking about each individual experience separately, your brain will start to form these generalized beliefs about yourself. And this is created into your self-concept. So let's look at it like this. There is a huge difference between saying, I failed at that, and I'm a failure. So the first one is an experience, and the second one is an identity. Just like this, the relationship ended, or I'm horrible at relationships. One is an experience, the other is an identity. What happens here is, over time, this is how experiences become your identity, your self-concept. One of the most important things about self-concept is that it is developed before we had the emotional maturity to actually understand what information is being received. So let's take it back to childhood. Children are often learning through experiences. So they're often learning about everything. They're sponges. They learn from their family, their friends, their environment, everything. It's their first base learning. So let's say a child was often punished just for being themselves. Over time, what's going to happen is they're not going to feel good about being themselves because they're going to believe that they cause problems. Or let's say a child only received love if they accomplished something. Over time, they believe they have to work harder and accomplish something just to receive love. Or let's say a child was freely expressing their emotions at home and often got in trouble for it. Over time, they're going to believe that expressing your emotions is not safe. And these conclusions could become a part of somebody's internal model of themselves and their relationships. So I'm not saying that your childhood is going to determine your entire future, because it does not. But what I am saying is that it does contribute to the beliefs and expectations that you carry around. And then these beliefs continue operating long after the past experiences, the past circumstances have gone. So this is why some adults may respond to the present day situations with emotional reactions that seem almost disproportionate to what's actually happening. Because what is occurring is what is happening right now, the situation they're handling right now, is being triggered from past experiences. It's activating an old meaning. So your adult brain knows that you're safe, that you are capable, and that you're worthy. But in your brain has been stored memories that created assumptions that from when you were a child, that you had to earn approval, that you had to avoid conflict, you had to stay small, or you often anticipated rejection. Now, this is why it is so important to understand that changing your self-concept is a lot different than just thinking positively, because you are working with a system that has been built through years of learning. Your brain uses past experiences to interpret current situations. So our brains are often collecting endless amount of data. So much information is coming. It must filter what information receives attention and how to interpret that information. So for example, two people can have the same situation, different results. This all determines how you believe about yourself. What is your self-concept? So for example, if you feel like you do not have any self-respect, people do not respect you. Let's say you walk into a meeting and somebody interrupts you. Immediately you become frustrated, impatient, and your brain thinks, here's evidence that nobody respects me. There's no self-respect. So somebody else who carries a different belief, they believe that they are very respected, walks into a meeting, they're immediately interrupted. Their brain immediately goes to, oh, somebody else is trying to speak in front of me. It does not affect them the same way. Same situation, different outcomes. This is all because of your self-concept. It's going to help play a role in how you react to everyday life, to everything that's happening. Remember this, life is going to happen regardless, and it's all about the way you handle it, the way you respond. We don't experience reality from just the event itself. We experience reality from the interaction between the events and the meaning that we have assigned to it. Now, this is an enormous part of the self-concept. Your beliefs about yourself will influence your expectations. So let's just say you're somebody who truly believes that you're really great at handling difficult situations. The odds of you handling that situation are pretty high. So let's say you're somebody who does not believe that you can handle difficult situations. The odds of you actually handling it are pretty low. So what happens here is that these different perceptions can lead to different behaviors, and repeated behaviors create patterns. Remember, our brains take past experiences, organize them, and create patterns. So this gives us a very important chain. Beliefs influence expectations. Expectations influence perception. Perception influences emotional response. Emotional response influences behavior. Behavior creates consequences. Consequences provide additional information that can lead reinforcements to the original belief. It's a cyclical pattern. This is one of the reasons that negative self-concepts become so persistent. What happens is they create a feedback loop. Now, this is not a conscious manipulation of reality at all. It is a psychological feedback system. And once you understand that, you begin to. Another important concept is your self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy occurs when the expectation influences somebody's behavior in a way that they contribute to an expected outcome. So let's just say it like this. Let's say that you're terrible at social situations. You always feel like you're awkward or just can't connect with people. So let's say you enter a room with that expectation. What happens is you're expecting this rejection, so you automatically become withdrawn and you avoid eye contact and you speak less and you probably interpret every expression as negative. Other people may see you as somebody who's distant or hard to communicate with, or somebody who's giving very little social interaction. What happens here is it leaves the person with this assumption saying, I knew it, nobody likes me. The belief appears to be confirmed. But notice what actually happened, okay? The original belief didn't necessarily describe the current reality. What happened was the belief influenced behavior, and the behavior influenced the social outcome. They had this already agenda that they were awkward in public, and then their behavior reflected it. And then that's exactly how they came off to the group of people. This is why your self-concept matters so much. Your identity can influence the way that you participate in your own life, truly. It is how you perceive yourself. Now, another reason that your identity could feel really difficult to change is that your brain develops expectations about what is familiar. Remember, your brain is in a mode consistently to protect you, to keep you alive, to keep you safe. So it's always going to revert back to what feels familiar. So, and familiar is not always healthy, okay? Obviously, especially if you're raised with patterns that are not healthy. So, for example, if you're accustomed to over-functioning for everyone else, having healthy boundaries may be really difficult for you or feel selfish. If you're accustomed to chaos, peace initially feels really uncomfortable. I've worked with a lot of people who have actually experienced that, and they had to feel comfortable in a sense of a peaceful environment. It made them feel very uncomfortable and uneasy. They needed some type of chaos to be happening around them. There's a lot of people functioning like that, by the way. So if you're accustomed to criticism, genuine compliments may be really difficult for you to accept. So if you're somebody who has a hard time accepting compliments, this is probably because you are accustomed to receiving criticism. So this is why people will sometimes say, I knew this wasn't good for me, but it felt familiar. The nervous system, the brain, and all the learned behaviors that we experience through time contribute to our responses to familiar and unfamiliar situations. This becomes really, really important in manifestation because your desired reality may not feel familiar. It most likely will not feel familiar. So when you become the version of yourself who already has whatever it is you're trying to manifest, you're going to feel uncomfortable. But this is also a sign that you are becoming. And in manifestation, becoming is one of the most important things to do before your manifestation arrives. So I have done a few videos of these in the past and really believe that you should go back and watch a few, especially if you're trying to manifest your dream life. You must become the version of yourself who already has your manifestation before it arrives. So to do that, you must understand the characteristics, beliefs, behaviors, standards, and internal capacity of your higher self. So let's just say you want to experience a healthy, loving relationship. What does this higher version of yourself act like, participate in? Who are they in a healthy relationship? Ask yourself these questions. Write it all down. What does she deserve? What feels safe to her? What will she tolerate? How does she communicate? Does she abandon herself to make others happy? Will she choose people pleasing over boundaries? If boundaries, what do those boundaries look like? How does she respond to conflict? How does she hold herself in public? So knowing all the characteristics and behaviors and beliefs of your higher self is so important to become your highest self. So the same thing happens with financial abundance. You want a new job. Ask yourself how your higher self would handle these situations. How would they spend their money? How would they dress? How would they act? What car would they drive? Know who your higher self is and start acting like them before your manifestation arrives. This is also why affirmations alone are not enough. So you could do affirmations all day long, and it'll help bring attention to a particular idea and can support internal changes, but affirmations are definitely not a magic pill. Something really important to remember that. You can't just do affirmations all day and then all of a sudden you're going to receive your manifestation. It's just not how manifestation works. Behavior gives your brain evidence, okay? So if you want to see something different appear in your life, you have to give experiences a different meaning. You have to create a new identity. So let's say you want to become someone who trusts yourself. You start then keeping promises to yourself. What happens is you're teaching your nervous system that it could start to believe you. It could trust you now. You're holding promises to yourself. If you want to become someone with stronger boundaries, start practicing communication that will adhere to these boundaries. If you want to become somebody more confident, start deliberately doing things that's going to boost your confidence. So putting yourself in discomfort. And if you want to become disciplined, create small commitments and consistently follow through. Baby step to a big goal. Your behavior becomes evidence. And evidence is really powerful because the brain needs it to experience things. It needs to experience change. Remember, the brain takes experiences and organizes it into patterns. Now, this is where neuroplasticity comes in. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to create new neural pathways over time. So it's a way to train the brain to learn new behavior. So let's wrap this all up and bring it back to manifestation. Your self-concept influences the part of you that participates in reality. So your self-concept is very important in manifestation. It influences what you expect, what you notice, and what you believe is possible. It influences what you attempt, what you tolerate, and what you will accept. And it also influences how you respond when things don't work. And all of these together influence your trajectory. So when your desires and your identity, beliefs, behaviors, and actions don't match up, they're completely going in different directions, what's happening is you're experiencing an internal conflict. So let's say they become more together, they start flowing together. What happens here is that you start operating from a totally different place. You now become aligned. And that is what I mean when I talk about becoming a match. So I'm not asking you guys to pretend. Absolutely not at all. I'm asking you to examine whether the person you are being consistently is compatible with the person you say you want to become. As this video comes to an end, I want to remind you that the work begins internally, because the internal world that you're experiencing is the part of you that you have the greatest ability to examine, understand, and to transform. You can change your habits and your beliefs and your standards. You can change the way you speak and see yourself. You can change the way you respond. You can change the meaning you've given to your past experiences. And you can change the identity that you are continuously reinforcing. And when those changes occur, your behavior changes and your choices change, which then leads to relationships changing, your experiences changing, your opportunities changing. You see life differently. Your self-concept is not an identity. Please remember that. It is your current model of yourself, and models are consistently changing. So if you want to create a life that is completely different than what you have now, don't focus on manifestation, okay? You need to start by becoming the person who already has whatever it is you desire. Start working on your self-concept. Study your beliefs and behaviors. The assumptions underneath the patterns. Study something different in your life. What is this going to do? It's going to train your brain that you are becoming somebody else. And then over time, what starts to happen is that you're building a self-concept that is more aligned with the life that you're trying to create. So ask yourself this question: who do I believe I am? Because ultimately what's going to happen here is eventually you're going to begin to ask yourself the question of, who am I willing to become? Thank you so much for being here. If this video resonated with you at all, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I would love to know what part you related to the most. Thank you endlessly. I appreciate you all so much. Till next time, all the love.